jingles, tunes, and tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy came home.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Mr. Jerry Springer.
Thank you. Way up there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So that happened.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way,
Yeah.
great stuff coming. Jesus Noguera, who is from Cuba, from Havana, Cuba, is here. Let's give Jesus a round. And let me remind our listeners and people who've listened through all the episodes in the archive, it's been, frankly, about 2.5 years worth of episodes there, but one of them, we took the Jerry Springer podcast on the road to Havana, Cuba, and some areas on the outskirts of Havana. And we toured with the help of the Center for Cuban Studies in New York, and Jesus was the tour guide.
Yep.
So Jesus is in the United States for the last couple months, touring all over the country. So in a few minutes, we're going to bring him up, talk about his impressions of America. They've had a devastating hurricane in Cuba, Hurricane Irma.
Yeah.
We've had a couple that have hurt a lot of people, but Irma was the one that impacted them. We're going to talk about that. Before we do, so we come in, we sit down, right, Megan and Jerry, and Megan looks at me and says, "Hey, Gene, did you get a haircut?" And I said, "Yeah, I get one about every month, month and a half."
Yeah, yeah.
But you and I noticed something. Jerry, I look occasionally like I had a haircut. My hair's shorter than it was last night. We did an episode last night.
Yes.
Jerry's hair, Megan, is never shorter. It's always exactly the same length. And that makes me want to ask on behalf of everybody in the United States, maybe all of the Americas for that matter.
All the listening public.
To ask Jerry,
Why don't we set up a website?
Your people.
Yeah.
And you say they tend to your hair when you're doing shows, which is 2 days a week.
They bring in my hair for every show.
2 or 3.
They take it off the top shelf and go. Actually, I'm bald. What I do is I let my eyebrows grow long and just comb them straight back.
It's really gross.
That really works, I find.
By the way, we have Chelsea Ford and The Trouble coming up,
Yeah,
too.
we do.
And they're awesome.
That's going to be great. But
And
they
we're-
actually do my.
I want to know.
He wants to talk about his hair some more, Jake.
You what?
When do you get a haircut?
Well, like most people.
Where do you go to get a haircut?
Yeah,
you walk
where
in a
do you go to
supercut?
get
It's in Stamford. I usually go, one of the days that I'm having a show.
It's a specialty salon, isn't it? It's real frou-frou.
Yeah, but first they clear it out because we don't want other people
Celebrity
in there while I'm in
presence.
there. And security make sure, and they
Jeez.
wand the place, and then
Yeah.
I go in.
But do you get a haircut?
I get my hair, but
How
before
often
every
you get?
show,
You get a haircut
every
once a
3 or
week?
4 weeks.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, but what they
surprised
do,
to hear that.
but before every show, well, it's like, they put on your makeup because it's television cameras, and they comb your hair, and, they want it. I mean, normally, I'm like this, just normal hair like most
Just
people.
normal Jerry.
But when you're on television, they don't want, what do they call them, flyaways?
Yeah.
Because, so everyone looks like a TV news anchor with just that pasted, it
helmet
drives
head.
me crazy, and then they spray, and they spray, and they spray, and I walk out there like bees are gonna come.
Tell you what, the trials and tribulations that
Oh,
you
it's
face.
not easy.
Yeah, it's really hard being a millionaire.
It
really
really
is,
must be
And
hard.
then between segments, they're powdering.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know what I have to
I
go
don't
through.
know.
Talk about sacrifice.
Those poor, poor people.
Well,
Those
I have my
poor,
own
poor people.
things because
Well,
corporate.
no one does your face.
Nobody does. No, mine.
Surprise, surprise.
Aw, he's a delicate little flower.
Boy, this is so timely. This is so timely. No, this is exactly why corporate called the other day. I got a call from corporate.
Oh, God.
I mean, you're not going to be too pleased about this either, Megan, but corporate is saying, and I agree with them, they said that they believe that our panel, that would be the three of us, that we three need to, and they're actually directing us to do this, start work with a staff psychologist.
Well, there could be a number of reasons for that, but go
Wow.
on.
That may have nothing to do
They
with
said, they said, Gene Galvin, do you feel comfortable on this hosting crew? And I said, I thought for a minute, and I said, actually, Gene Galvin doesn't feel completely comfortable. And they said, why? And they said, I said, why are you asking? And they said, we listen to all the episodes, and it sounds as if you are teased and picked on and bullied by Megan and Jerry.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why are you the only person that hears from corporate?
Well, because I'm the producer. That's because I'm the producer.
Huh. It always ends up being it's something
Yeah.
about Gene. Okay.
Yeah.
So we
So
don't treat you well.
They feel that I am being teased and bullied and body shamed. And this is an example of it right here. That's an example of what they're talking about. That's why I said that's very timely. They will hear this in the archive, and that will be marked down as body shaming. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Oh, God.
Yeah.
So anyway, they are directing
So
us
they
to
want
begin.
us to have a psychiatrist?
No,
or
well,
psychologist?
only they want us to only do 50 sessions, 1 hour in length.
Like as a group?
Yeah, the 3 of us,
Oh,
and
crap.
working with the Community Psychology Institute from the University of Cincinnati.
Huh.
It's a panel of professors who have private practices, and they want us to meet with them, and they're going to videotape it, and
I don't know.
might be used for training purposes.
I went to my psychiatrist last week, and he told me I'm crazy, and I said, I want a second opinion. He says, okay, you're ugly too.
Nope.
His jokes are so lame. ass.
Nope. I tell you what, sir.
Yeah. So I'm not going back to another one. 2 opinions are enough.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
We walked in here tonight. I
Yes.
swear to God, I saw a guy
I
stop
s-
you
I
out
swear
on the
to God, I flipped
sidewalk.
the table
An
over.
older man.
Yes?
What was that conversation all about? Right out there on the sidewalk coming through the door. What was
I
that all
wish I
about?
could do this in Spanish so they could.
I'm going to kill you.
You're going to kill me, yeah. No, oh, you mean the guy with the, yeah, he had a hearing aid.
Mhm.
And he was really bragging about it. He said, this is the finest hearing aid money can buy. I said, yeah, what kind is it? He said, 4 o'clock.
Nope.
She hasn't been here before. Look at her. Give her a hand. Hey! I love you. Oh. Give her a hug. A free cup of coffee on me. That's how you tell who hasn't been here before.
Everyone else was just shaking their head going, are you freaking kidding me?
Did I tell you a corporate called the
I
other
hate you
day?
too.
Hey, no. Hey, listen.
I don't understand how
So
this even works.
we went to Cuba, and I'd like to ask
that was
our
a great
friend,
trip.
my friend, and
Yes.
all of our friends,
Jesus.
Jesus Noguera, to come over here, please,
Come on, Jesus.
and have a seat.
There you go.
And he's been on the show before. We've had Jesus on.
He has been on the
By phone,
show.
yes.
We
By
did
phone.
we call it a bit. We did a bit called Ask the Cuban Socialist, and people called in and asked questions of Jesus. And to give Jesus an introduction, he is from Cuba, born, raised in Cuba, and has loves his country. We've had many conversations about it. Showed us wonderful things about Cuba, and tried, and you clean this up if I get this introduction wrong, but tried other times to get a visa to come to America to visit, because a lot of his clients in Cuba who he tours are Americans. Things have flexed up in the last couple of years, and he's had probably more Americans that he's able to take around. He always could get out of Cuba to come here, but he had a little, I don't know if you call it trouble, but it took some time to get a visa, and you
In
finally
order to
got
come
a
into
visa.
the-
Yeah, it
America.
took more than 3 years to come here. Finally, thanks to the Center for Cuban Studies and Sandra Levinson, who invited me to come. I am here now.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. And we were, yeah.
Go ahead. No, please.
Well, we were anxious to hear, we wanted to talk about a couple things. One, a little bit about Hurricane Irma, because he is talking with his friends and family back in Cuba while he's here, and that happened since you've been here. But you have been around the country, and I know I'm anxious to hear your impressions of places you've been. Did they match what you thought they might be? You've traveled around the world, too.
I have.
Jesus, how long have you been in the, when did you come to the U.S. this year?
I got here on July the 6th.
Okay, so you've been here since
I
July.
landed in New York.
Yeah.
And spent 3 weeks all around New York. I visited Chicago, New Jersey, Boston, and then with Sandra, I flew to the West Coast, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Minneapolis, Colorado.
You've seen more of the U.S. than most U.S.
Yeah.
citizens.
I'm a traveler. You should
It's
do some
really
tourism in
cool.
your
That's
country.
He
very
speaks
cool.
better English than Donald Trump.
Yes.
What are your impressions of the
My
United States?
impressions are very positive. I have so many good stories to tell you. It would take a whole year to tell you, but you guys are very positive. People are very welcoming, very helpful, gracious, and I didn't expect otherwise.
Can we tell people that you have, gosh, I'm going to say it, and then once I've said it, you can't take it back, but you have a Facebook page like many of us do.
I do.
And are you open to having people, a friend request you if they would like to?
Of
Okay,
course.
because here's why I bring that up. I am a Facebook friend of yours, and you're staying in my home tonight. We're going to have a gathering after this for
Thank you.
So we're all friends.
Which is
And
nice.
we really enjoyed our time with you. I speak for all of us.
Absolutely.
He's such just a cool guy. And
We had a great time.
probably that's the first good thing if you're a tour guide is people want to hang out with
Yeah.
you. But because we're Facebook friends, I follow you in Cuba.
Yeah.
I have followed you in these 2 months that you've been here in the United States. And others might want to friend you and get to know you that way. So to do that, it's Jesus,
Noguera, Noguera.
Okay, and there it is. So if a friend requests Jesus Noguera, then he'll likely say yes, and then they can learn more about Cuba just through your Facebook page.
I'd be happy.
Now you
And-
can
and-
unfriend him.
You don't have to be,
Cool guy.
and you don't have to be friends with Gene to be friends with Jesus. Is the most important thing. You can just be friends with. Sorry, Gene.
I hear you. Well, that's what we're talking about.
If there was a surprise for you in terms of what you were thinking America would be like, and it turned out it wasn't, either good or bad, what would you say was the biggest surprise to you now that you've traveled around for two?
Well, my biggest surprise, maybe it's not the American people, but some friends in United States
Yes.
that were with me years ago, and they are living now in the United States.
Oh,
and
from-
I'm surprised.
from Cuba.
From
People
Cuba,
from
yeah,
Cuba.
Cuban friends.
So you
who are
have
now
found-
here in the United States.
And you have in your travels in the United States hooked up with them and talked to them.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm reconnecting with friends from Cuba, from the United States. And to my surprise, people that I met and I know for 20, 30, 40 years who are living now in the United States, Cuban-born people, totally different. They have changed a lot.
Interesting.
How?
How so? Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you notice?
they don't think the same way they did before.
They sold out, huh?
Yeah, a little bit skeptical about Cubans
Really?
coming to the United States from Cuba again. No, I don't want that because it could be bad for me, and the price of gas could rise up, and also it would be hard to find a new house and buy a new car. Things
you
like
mean
that.
they're hesitant about going back to Cuba because they think it would be more expensive there or tougher, life would be tougher?
Not all,
Or have
Jerry.
it backwards?
What I'm saying is that people who came from Cuba to
Yes.
live in the United States,
Yes.
now they are not happy, or at least they don't like the idea that other Cubans are coming.
More
to
Cubans
the
They
are
don't want
coming
more.
there. That's great.
They want to kind of have this.
That
to
is
themselves.
very surprising to me.
That-
I
that's
didn't
it.
expect that at all
Yeah.
from my own people.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
So how do you like Trump?
Yeah.
That is a very interesting question,
And you,
especially in this situation.
Sure.
for another week, you're allowed to say what you want. The final clampdown hasn't happened yet.
I
So
could
can
tell
say
you what I
want.
would like Trump to do. We all know he's going to Miami very soon, and
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, but he's going to Miami to talk about Cuba.
Mm.
And the fact that he's going to Miami makes me think that he's going to keep the old policy, the one that was totally defeated for more than 50 years.
Sure.
More restricting.
Yeah, he's
travel.
going back to those years when there were restrictions for you American
Yeah.
citizens to go to Cuba, and that's not good.
Yeah.
I think in
It's
the
terrible
case of a
to say
hurricane,
it's
think about the Hurricane Irma. Mother Nature gave us a unique opportunity to be above all type of differences.
Boy,
And-
that's exactly
Yeah.
right.
And
To be human
it
instead
requires
of political. Yeah.
exactly political will to say yes, we're going to overcome our differences and we're going to help the people, right?
Support.
I remember when the earthquake in Haiti, the Cuban government allowed U.S. airplanes to fly over the Cuban airspace
Yeah.
to get faster
To get
to
to
Haiti
Haiti.
and send the relief. And there were Cuban doctors already there, working in Haiti for 10 years already. So
Yeah.
we didn't have to send doctors to Haiti
Yeah.
because they were
were
already
there.
in Haiti when
Yeah.
that happened. Now we're ready to send doctors, medical staff to Puerto Rico, and
And then-
no answer.
Right.
Like in Katrina, no
You're
answer.
offering, but they're not saying, yes, you can do it.
Correct.
Okay.
That is disgusting.
What are you hearing from family and friends in Cuba in the last number of weeks about the impact of that
Yeah.
hurricane on the island?
It's awful.
Okay.
Yeah,
tell,
it will
tell us
take
what you
years.
know.
It will take years, effort, energy, and money to get recovered from Irma hurricane. The hurricanes, that hurricane was devastating. And the north shore of Cuba,
The North Shore particularly.
yeah. The tourist infrastructure was very damaged, an airport, causeways, hotels, but crumbling buildings in Havana. That's
Sure.
Really? In Havana,
In
there are
Havana.
it impacted as well, yeah.
very badly. You've been to Central Havana
Yes.
already.
Sure.
So the floods were only 1 block away from my house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
I live very close. Yeah.
Oh,
Big
wow.
wow. Never before. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
And I've seen many
Yeah.
Yeah.
hurricanes. But
Yeah.
it was a very bad hurricane.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're
Jesus.
welcome.
We're going to spend
Muchas
a lot of
gracias.
time together in the next
Yeah.
couple days. So
Gracias.
welcome to the United States, but you've already been here for a while, but welcome to Ludlow, Kentucky. We're so glad you came.
Yeah.
Thank you
because
for
we've been-
inviting me, for giving me this
Yeah.
opportunity.
You're a
Absolutely.
good
All right.
guy.
Gracias,
Thank
Terry.
you.
All right.
You know, and you talk to him, and you really wonder what the hell is wrong
Well, he's
with
right.
our politicians.
Yeah.
That just as a human being, you wouldn't say, "What do you guys need?"
Right.
We'll debate later.
Boy, I'm with
right
you.
now, what do you need?
Yep.
And by the way, the same thing's going on in Puerto Rico, and Trump doesn't have the excuse there because these are Americans, and now 9 days later, we're starting to send ships down there.
Just starting to pay attention.
Situation's even worse, though, because understand what he just said. The Cubans want to send people
They wanna
into
help.
Puerto Rico, and they're not getting an answer.
Right.
And we're 9 days in.
Yes.
So it is, that was
Honestly-
so well put, that Mother Nature gives
Gave us
us
an
an
opportunity.
opportunity
To be
to
human.
test our humanness.
He has failed every test at being human,
Yeah.
at being decent, at being caring. He really has. You know, it's so beyond politics. He's, you know, you can't help but be incensed by just his human behavior that you would be absolutely ashamed if your kid ever behaved like that.
Yeah.
You know, and even now, when he's giving his talks, it's the only thing he can talk about is whether some officials in Puerto Rico said a nice thing about him. I
Yeah,
mean,
true. He said 5 times.
he's
in that-
mentally unstable.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
it's
he
crazy.
really is. It's like,
But you know, let's for once on a podcast not talk about Donald Trump. Instead, let's talk about Jeff Sessions. How's that? That's it.
Feel better, Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Attorney General Jeff
Yes.
Sessions gave a speech the other day, and he talked about talked about freedom of speech.
yes, he was at Georgetown University.
Yeah, talk about that for.
And he was invited to give a speech about free speech. And the relevance of this is because on college campuses around the country, they're dealing with this free speech issue because college campuses, let's be honest, most of them are pretty liberal. I mean, the fact of the matter is, now this may be my own bias, but if you're going to get a college education on most colleges, just because you're studying different cultures, different languages, reading different literature, you're becoming well-rounded. So you're going to wind up being more liberal, less judgmental, less, you know, the world opens up to you. You're 17 years old and you're suddenly going away to college. You learn about the rest of the world. You learn about people of different races and whatever. And so the mix is bound to make you more liberal. It's not an accident that the more educated people were in terms of their education. Every poll shows they tend to vote Democrat, except when the money issue is there. But you're going to be more liberal if you're more educated. And that just happens to be what it is. So the college campuses, and here's where the conservatives have it right. When a conservative speaker tries to get on campus, whether it's Ann Coulter or Milo Yiannopoulos, you know, they go out to Berkeley, which is, for our generation, the beginning of the whole free speech movement back in 1964. When they go there, sometimes their speeches have to be canceled because the students are protesting, and because after a while the campuses have to spend more on security, and so it becomes, in that sense, a burden on the college campuses. So it is tough sometimes for controversial conservative speakers to speak on a college campus. And that, of course, is an embarrassment to those of us of a liberal philosophy, because we're supposed to be the, you know, free speech is everything to us. That's the very First Amendment. And so Sessions was giving a speech, which was a very good speech, telling the college students that the First Amendment isn't there to protect speech that we all agree with. Speech we all agree with doesn't need protection because we all agree. So the power of the First Amendment is even, you know, I hate what you say, but I'll fight to the death your right to say it. And that's the concept. It's a little ironic that Sessions would give this speech, because the other part of the First Amendment, which talks about freedom of religion and his view on banning Muslims and stuff like that. So there's a lot of hypocrisy in what Sessions was saying, but the speech itself, if you read it, makes good sense. So my question then is, why was he speaking to them? Why wasn't he giving this speech to Trump? Sorry, I'm speaking about Trump. But no, because 2 days earlier, 3 days earlier, is when he went on his rant against the football players that took a knee during the national anthem. And Trump was ripping them. And so the reporters, after the speech, asked Sessions, aren't you being a little bit hypocritical? You're saying all speech should be protected? Everyone should have the right to say what they want? And then your own president, he rips an NFL player because he's expressing his point of view. And so Sessions says, well, the president is entitled to his point of view. Whoa, missing the point. Trump isn't just a regular citizen, though how I pray to God every night that he would just be one. He's president of the United States. He represents our government. Like it or not, he represents our government. So when the government is taunting a private citizen for peacefully protesting, peacefully expressing their his point of view, and by the way, can you even conceive of a more peaceful protest than going down on one knee? I mean, these aren't people rioting. These aren't people running through streets, throwing rocks, burning draft cards, setting cars on fire. They're not even yelling. They're silently going down on one knee. You can't even construct a more peaceful protest than that. No one's asking anyone to agree with their protest. In other words, what their point of view is. You don't have to agree with it. But how can you be an American and get upset with someone who is exercising their constitutional right to protest something about what our government should be doing and isn't doing? That's what our soldiers fight and die for. And Trump isn't just expressing a point of view, but because he represents our government, his comments are a threat of intimidation to do action against a person. In other words, he's not just saying, boy, I really don't like those guys protesting. Shouldn't have said that, but okay, he can say that. But when he says to the owners, you should fire these people, that is a call to action for them to pay a price for expressing their point of view, a very real price. And if you think that, oh, that's just speech, don't worry, nothing bad will happen, talk to Colin Kaepernick. He has been blacklisted from the NFL for starting it and taking a knee. So when Trump says to these owners, and he's friends with these owners, fire these football players, that's not an idle threat. That is basically saying, if one of those players has a bad game, you've got a good excuse now to just bench him and not continue their contract. Because they've already done it. So this is Trump using the power of the presidency to threaten a citizen from exercising his constitutional right to just make a peaceful point. And we just finished talking to someone from Cuba, where we've spent 55 years screaming about a totalitarian government. What is the difference in at least the wishes when Castro says, we'll shut down the media, we'll shut down anyone who protests against our government? When Castro threatened that, we said, oh my gosh, how can you have a country where people can't be free to express their point of view? How can you have a press that, that gets punished if they criticize the government? And we complain about that in Cuba, and then when we got our own president doing the same thing. Let me give you recent examples. The NFL, I just gave you that example. Jemele Hill, she's the anchor of one of the sports shows on ESPN. She said something on the air calling Trump a white supremacist. Regardless of whether you think that's right or wrong, she said that, clearly controversial. And through Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the press secretary, she said that it's a fireable offense. The White House is saying she should be fired for having said something bad about the president. Oh my gosh, this really is Cuba. Well, first of all, it's a private, ESPN is a private company. They can make a decision, being a private company, whether they want to have that as their anchors or not, and, they can discipline it. That's not up to the President of the United States telling a private company that they should fire someone because that person said something bad about the president. This is really serious stuff, folks. It's every day. It's just a little bit. And every little bit of this that happens never seems enough to put it over the edge. So we say, oh, that's just Trump. That's, we're used to that. You can't get used to it. Every day it's something else. So the NFL, Jemele Hill with ESPN. He has called the media the enemy of the American people. What dictator doesn't say that the media is the enemy of our country? Whether it was in the days of the Soviet Union, whether it was Gaddafi, whichever dictator you want to come up with, if you argue against the state, you're the enemy of the state. CNN, they criticize him. That's fake news. Try to ruin their business. Try to say they're fake. Your ratings are going down. Keep harassing it. So all these Trump voters will stop watching CNN. This is an abuse of the power he has. And we've all seen it where when he has these mass rallies, he encourages the crowd to start taunting the reporters in the back. Katie Tur, she just wrote her book, what was it, Unbelievable or whatever. It's Katie Tur's book. She's a reporter for MSNBC and covered the Trump campaign. And he got the crowd to start taunting her. And she talks about how scary it was. You're in the middle of 20,000 people screaming your name and looking at you and pointing fingers at you. That's pretty scary. This is what this guy is doing. It's not, oh, no, there goes Trump. It's not that he's a buffoon. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to our democracy. And just think about that. The same behavior exists in Cuba, and by gosh, we'll be damned if we trade with Cuba or help Cuba or take Cuba's help, because they have a dictatorship there. They don't have freedom of speech. Well, be careful when your freedoms, our freedoms, get chipped away one day at a time, one announcer at a time, one football player at a time.
Thank you. And coming up here, we do have Chelsea Ford and The Trouble. Welcome, guys. All right, so you guys are husband and wife duo, and we've got Matt Crone as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, welcome. We're very excited to have you guys on.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves. How did you get together? How long have you been playing together?
We've been playing together about 2 months.
2 months.
Oh, great.
I started playing instruments about 4 years ago, and my husband John, on guitar here, has been really instrumental in pushing me to write and to get out there and, you know,
How are you getting
scare the
along with
pants
your,
off
how are
myself.
you getting along with your husband?
We get along
Oh no,
great.
that's the other show. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot what
And
I
he
was.
forgot again.
Yeah. Sorry.
We do everything together, so
Yeah.
And then we've known Matt Crone for a long time, and we thought it was time to make a 2-piece, a 3-piece, and
Very cool.
and he's great. So he usually plays electric bass, and he learned upright just for us. So and he's killing it. So
Well, heck yeah. Well, your first song tonight is Kind-Hearted Woman. Is that correct?
that's correct.
All right, well, let's hear it. We'll talk some more afterwards.
I'm a kind-hearted woman, the kind you ought to treat right. Believe in kind-hearted women, they know how to fight. So if you start stepping out to some other land, this kind-hearted woman will kindly be
that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
that was
agree.
great.
I agree.
Very,
That was
very cool.
great.
2 months. That's
Yeah.
wow. That's really, really cool.
Super.
So where can we hear some more of your music? I know you guys don't have an album out yet.
Oh, well, tomorrow we're going to be playing at the Crow's Nest
Oh,
for the
love it.
Artists in
Oh, yeah.
Residence.
Yeah.
And we'll actually be with my husband John's other band, with him and his brother, Warwick and Lowell, so that'll be fun, and a couple other guests. And then we have the Artists in Residence at Southgate House in December.
Very cool.
And if
These
you're
are
looking,
all Cincinnati area
Yeah.
places.
Do you have a website?
We're on Facebook, Chelsea
Facebook?
Ford and the Trouble.
and we do have a YouTube channel with several videos from a festival we played in July. So
Okay, so it's Facebook and YouTube.
And
Yes.
that's Chelsea, CHELSEA,
Yeah.
correct? All right, Chelsea Ford and the Trouble. All right. Well, you've got another song for us. This one is Old and Blue.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
Darling, I know you're wanting something new. Tell me what happened to the old and blue. Night that we first met, I dreamed that we would be loving each other for the rest of eternity. Held me close and you loved me, dear, but it didn't take long for me to hear. Baby, you ain't working all night. Baby, this just don't seem right. Come on, tired and smelling good. Don't work hard, never do you should. Darling, I know you're wanting something new. Tell me what happened to the old and blue. Now I understand your ways, and I know that love it'll make you pay. I'ma go on and find a real man, one that'll love me the best that he can. Now I could trust you, you would never do me wrong. Vows and lies and they didn't last for too long. Raising your baby while another woman's in my bed. If I ever see you again, I'ma feel your ass with lead. Darling, I know you're wanting something new. Tell me what happened to the old and blue.
All right. That is Chelsea Ford and the Trouble. So Chelsea, Jonathan, and Matt, thank you so much. Again, check them out on Facebook at Chelsea Ford and the Trouble. And we're going to ask you to sing with Jerry, and we apologize in advance.
This could, but you did it for 2 months,
2
so
months.
there you go.
It was a good run.
Couldn't last forever.
It was a pretty solid run there. We're sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
nice run, though. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was absolutely a pleasure listening to you guys. We can't wait for your album to come out. We're looking forward to that. So, yeah, if
Appreciate
you
it.
would
Thank
take
you
us
so
out
much.
on Down by the Riverside and give Jerry some room to sing.
It's a- Gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I said, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by the riverside, down by the riverside.
no study or no more.
Whoa! Y'all come back now, you hear?